Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Hanan. Good morning, Barbara.
Hi. Hi.
Good morning to our audience. Please leave in the comments where you're from.
Yes, guys, type in the comments below where are you watching us from. Thank you for tuning in this morning for us. We are from Vancouver. We are from Seattle. Here, it would be cool to hear from you. Where are you watching us from?
Hello, James.
Yes, hello, James. James is one of our friends, and he's been our supporter ever since we started the show. Thank you for tuning in
Nice
today
to meet
as
you.
well.
Yeah. Well, let me introduce our guest, Barbara. She currently serves as president of the board for the Washington State chapter of the International Coaching Federation. She's a professional certified coach accredited by ICF. She is objectives and key results expert and distinguished Toastmaster. She has more than 20 years of experience in a corporate technology environment, navigating complex roles and career growth. She's also a mother, a wife, but it's not our credentials and status that define who we are, nor what we stand for. It is our life stories and our attitude faced to adversity. And this is what we are eager to hear from Barbara today. So, Barbara, please, can you tell us a little bit about your life journey and
Mm,
how did you make it? I mean, how did you handle your challenges, professional or personal?
mm. Well, thank you. It's daunting to think about how to describe an entire life journey. So I'll share many little journeys, and then we can consider the ways that I feel like these experiences have deepened and expanded my capacity, and the things that I'm still doing daily, weekly, monthly to keep that resilience present in my life. So I've had many seasons in my life. It's at a winding river, is it a twisted path with unexpected turns? Whatever the metaphor, here I am today. I'm working full time as a leadership coach, which is really a dream come true. It's a dream that I set, and I've arrived here and I'm making it happen. Before that, I spent 20 years at a large major corporation after I had already had a full career in the nonprofit sector. So a lot of different stages along the way. And while each of those unique work seasons offered challenges, taught me about resiliency in the face of frequent change or leadership departures, personal, changes and transformations, unhealthy cultures, burnout. I I realized that my life has had challenges before that from early days. So I grew up in a very small farm community. We were dairy farmers, and I lived about 2 hours north of Seattle, Washington. Now, not many people from this town went to college, everyone just stayed and farmed. And I did not want to do that. And so from the beginning, I had a dream for something else, a drive to leave that town. And that really set me apart from my contemporaries. Also, I was different because I had been adopted as an infant. So that's part of my life journey. I was born in Seattle, and then I got taken to this small town and put put there, and I was met with love and welcomed and cared for and nurtured. And yet, much of my growing up years, I see now with reflection, they are through the lens of a lot of loss and sadness and um, I really believe there's trauma that is inherent with any adoption situation because there is that pre-verbal maternal separation. There's a disruption at a formative moment, and so I see my childhood now through that lens, and I think, oh, I may not have had all of the resiliency skills at my disposal, um, and yet I fared fairly well. I coped okay. And looking back, I was quite resilient. Although today I still look back and I see the long term effects of that pivotal experience. I did leave the town. I got myself to college. I put myself through college, and that in itself was a great journey. I feel successful for that. And then in my early 20s, right after I graduated from college, I embarked on a search to meet my biological family. Without knowing how it would turn out, I wanted to meet my birth mother. And that happened. And now it's been 30 years. I've been in reunion with my other family, my first family. And at the time I was going through it, I was very focused on planning for the worst case scenario. I kept thinking, well, if this terrible thing happens, it's still worth the risk. If this terrible thing happens, it's still worth the risk. I'm willing to do it until I sort of met my edge. And I'm like, and if that happens, then that won't be good. So I planned on this worst case scenario basis. If I could go back and tell my younger self something now, it would be, how about you balance out that risk assessment with some joyful possibility? I wish I could think about it that way. So that has actually, that reflection informs how I work and operate today. I might get caught up in the risk thinking, the risk averse thinking, or just planning ahead for what might happen on the negative side. And then I challenge myself to also think about what might happen on the possibility side. So that's a lesson that I learned from that early search and reunion with my birth family. So that's a deep, big resilience building moment. Then soon after that poignant reunion with my birth family, my adoptive mother became ill with cancer. She had had cancer when I was in college and it came back. And so because I was the youngest and I didn't have kids yet, and I mean, I had a career, but my family didn't really think I had a career. So I was the one who often accompanied my parents on doctor's visits and took notes and conveyed the results to my family members, my siblings. And then in the later stages, when my mom was very ill, I moved back home to become her caregiver. And then I was with her when she passed away in May. I was in May of 1997. I was only 27 years old when she died. And then the next year, my adoptive dad also became ill with a different type of cancer, and he also passed away. And so before I was 30, I had had these three pivotal life-altering experiences with my reunion with my birth family and both of my parents passing away. And then what did I do? I didn't know anything about grief or grieving or resiliency. I didn't have those words. And so I went back to work. I just went back to work. I dove back in. I stayed late. I came in early. I delivered amazing results, and I burned myself out because I did not take care of myself. And I didn't know any other path other than to just quit. I didn't know what else to do. So I left work and I got a house sitting job and I stayed at a friend's house while they were traveling, and I, saved money as long as I could to just kind of, now I see that was my grieving time period, and I didn't, again, have words to describe that. When I ran out of money, I had to go back to work. And so I started temping, and I didn't know what I wanted to do because I didn't think I could re-enter my previous career path. And I ended up on an assignment at Microsoft as a temporary role, and that turned into a full-time job offer, and then that turned into 20 years of career growth. I had 27 different managers during that time. Change was constant. There were many great highlight moments, and there were many deep, dark moments where there might have been a bad fit or a challenging culture. And so I know these moments of joy and these moments of deep challenge, painful challenge during that career path. And then, so there's the career path resilience lessons. Our life goes on. Our life goes on while we're working in a setting. And so what else happened in that time? I got married. I wanted to start a family. I had my first child. Um, and then one of those things that we never talk about are fertility struggles. When we're in a corporate environment, right? We stay buttoned up and we just keep delivering the work. Uh, I have I have two children. One is 18; he's about to go off to college, and I have a 12-year-old who's almost 13, heading into middle school. But through that time period when I was working so well in the corporate environment, I also had four miscarriages, which is a grief that I don't often share or talk about, but it's also life altering in its way. Loss compounds upon loss. So there's deep joy and deep loss that always intermingle for me. Deep joy and deep loss. And I realize that resilience for me is also this practical way that we just keep showing up then. We just keep showing up through all of that and take moments now and then to consider how we've changed or grown through that. So now I come to this new season of my life. As a coach, I had completed my training. I had set my goal. I'm like, this is going to be my next thing. And I had decided in my heart, 2020 is the year. I'm going to leave my safe corporate job and I'm going to start my business. And then the universe pushed me into it a little bit faster than I would have wanted. I got laid off right before the pandemic. And so that layoff coincided with my kids being home and homeschooling. And like the rest of the world, we were in lockdown and changing the ways that we coped in life. And I was building a business, sort of unexpectedly. And so that
Wow.
first year was just so unexpected and sort of disarming. And I thought, okay, year two, I've got a business plan. This is going to be great. And then life threw one more thing at me. In 2021, I got a cancer diagnosis. And so then I was like, okay, how do I now keep my business afloat while I'm getting treatment? And I found a way through. I found that I could modify my work hours from home, ask for help, like relearned all the lessons that I had learned in my teens and my 20s, my 30s and my 40s. It's like, oh yes, come back to that. Know what's important for me in the moment, ask for help and be open to receiving help, and then doing what brings me joy, even when life is really hard. Those are some of the approaches that I took. So now I am past that health hurdle. My prognosis is good. And I thought, okay, year three, business planning, we're going to do this the right way. There's no the pandemic is waning, my health is increasing, and so I've actually had an amazing year. But this invitation to tell my story makes me look back and say each crisis or each challenge or each loss is what has allowed me to be able to meet that cancer diagnosis last year with the strength and resources that I had, because each other piece of my journey has prepared me for this. So I'll
Wow.
pause there.
Wow, what a journey, Barbara. I
What a journey.
really, I really salute your courage. Really, the first time we connected and you shared that with me, I was like, oh my God, I am not the only one. Somehow.
And I think so many of us can connect with you with this winding road as you describe
Mm-hmm.
it, right? Because I think if we do take the time to look back, I think all of us had these seasons of our lives in which, the ebb and flow of life took us here and there, sometimes in unexpected dark places, and sometimes something happened and it helped us rise above whatever the circumstance or the situation was. And as we were talking prior to going live, and Hanani mentioned, I don't think anyone is going through life just like through a smooth ride, smooth journey without anything happening. It's just that sometimes, looking in hindsight, we can appreciate that actually all the hurdles or the
Mm-hmm.
struggles, all the things that were thrown at us built us into the person that is able to face even harder challenges, right? And I just want to salute you, commend you for just moving on, continuing on your path, and
Yeah.
doing whatever it was necessary for you to grow actually, and to learn from your your path actually, from whatever has happened to you. And you did not allow it to define you. You just grew
Mm.
from it. And
Exactly. Well,
yeah.
Barbara, you talked about many things. You talked about your story of adoption. You talked about your health challenges. You talked about your professional challenges. I know that this is a question that I ask each guest because my own challenges, when I was faced with really, most of my challenges were health challenges.
Mm.
And in every situation, I had this mechanism in my mind. Okay, Hanan, here you have always two options. You either go with the pain and the blame and feeling bad, or you focus on the future, your goals, and what you want to build. So I built this mechanism in my mind, and it became part of who I am. And whenever
Mm-hmm.
I am challenged, I remind myself, I go to this built-in mechanism. This is how I managed to overcome many things in order to keep going. I
Mm.
want to ask you, what was your mechanism? What was your built-in approach that you used in order to keep going despite the
Mm.
hurdles?
Two things come to mind. One is the phrase, the belief, you can do anything for 90 seconds. So back in my 20s, I also trained to become a doula. So I would accompany women during childbirth. So I find in my life, with my parenting, with my work, with my coaching, I use birth metaphors a lot. In the natural progression of labor, contractions they start simple enough, but then they become longer, they become stronger, and they become closer together. Just like the waves of my story, they become longer, stronger, closer together. And your coping mechanisms need to change. So a contraction, however, even at the peak of labor, won't last longer than 90 seconds, and then it will relax and you can catch your breath. So I tell my kids every day, they're sick of hearing it, you can do anything for 90 seconds, which means we do have the capacity to push through something. But contraction is not sustainable. That amount of pressure is not where you live your life. It's what you cope through, and then you recover and you nurture yourself and you nourish yourself. And so that first mechanism is, I can do this. I can get through anything for 90 seconds, whether that means 90 minutes or 90 days or whatever. I can get through the intensity. I believe that in myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remind myself, I can get through this because I have lived through worse. So you can get through anything for 90 seconds. And the other thing is managing polarities, believing in paradox, that two things can become possible at once, can be true at the same time. So I am both lost and I am loved. I've lost all of my common polarities, but that if I notice that my thinking has diverged into either or, that's a signal for me. I need to recalibrate. I need to bring myself in and believe both of these extremes are true. And then I can choose where I orient myself. Am I more on this side or this side? But if I become an exclusive thinker, it is either this way or it is that way. That is a signal. So believing in both and is extremely powerful for me. Like that is a mindset choice that gets me out of emergency mode. It gets me out of crisis mode. So those two, you can do anything for 90 seconds. And how can both of these things be true at once? And how can I bring them together?
Wow. Have you ever thought about writing your own book?
I have lots of notes on it.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it. So let us know when you
This
when you
is the
start
first.
working and when you
This is the
release it.
first time I hear about this 90 seconds thing. It's wow. Maybe writing down this can even get clearer, and you can share it also in an article on LinkedIn with people.
That's a great idea. Thank you.
My first experience on LinkedIn was through an article where I wrote something that impacted my mental health for many years. And the moment I wrote that article and I published the article, I felt relief, a great relief. It was like something that I got rid of, or just this feeling that I moved on that incident.
It was healing, right?
It was healing, yeah, and that's why writing in these cases, I know that these stories of deep challenges and deep struggles, writing can really help. And I'm writing my own book also. So
Fantastic. If I can add onto this notion of doing anything for 90 seconds, I use this metaphor with myself and with my kids, and honestly with my coaching clients. This notion that when life is hitting you, it can feel like waves, right? Oh, and there was the layoff. Oh, and then there was the pandemic. Oh, and then there was the cancer. Like you feel like you cannot get your bearings, like you're in a deep ocean and the waves are hitting you. And the resilience mindset for me is trust. I am going to trust in kind of a practical, capable, creative way that I can do anything for 90 seconds, but then I can see, I believe in those moments, my toes are going to touch the sand. I may not feel the earth under me, but my toes will touch the sand, and that will help me orient to the shore. And then I can know the waves will carry me to land again. Like then I'll be able to stand and get my bearings. And so that wave metaphor, it's like if my kids were tantruming, talk about needing resilience in a moment, your kids are tantruming, and I could just use my voice and my calmness and say, find your way, let it carry over you, just let it wash over, let it wash over. There, do you feel like, okay, can you feel your feet on the earth? Can you feel your feet on the earth? All right, take a step toward shore, orient yourself. You're going to get through this. Exactly as I would comfort a woman during labor while the wave of the contraction is peaking, I could use that for my kids. I can use that in work scenarios. I can use that with myself, that idea that we are moving through something, it is not forever, and my feet will let me stand on the earth again in a minute. I might not feel it, but I believe in it.
well, that is very nice. Is this approach formalized? Like, did you write it somewhere, or did you share it in your coaching practices, or no?
No, I share it casually. I use that metaphor and plant it as an idea for people. I learned it when I was training as a doula. This notion that something is going to start and you're
Yes.
going to peak, and but this and the way that my mentor at the time taught me was this image of a wave and how you find your way through it. And then I've just carried that image with me, and I've applied it outside of labor as much more than I ever did in labor.
Well, anyway, I really recommend you to write the article and then maybe share it in a professional setting that can help, or maybe just write about it.
I think it is very inspirational, and I think just the visual that it's created by the metaphor in itself is very supportive whenever you're going through, knowing that despite the strength of the wave that is washing past you, you can still maybe feel the sand underneath you and help you reorient, right? So use the struggle, use the whatever it's the challenge is, to help you reorient where you are, allowing that thing to help you reorient. I think it's really powerful, to as a metaphor for people who are going through difficult times.
Yeah, one of the beautiful things you said, Barbara, when we were talking about your journey, is that it's not about a challenge, overcoming a specific challenge, because there will be always challenges in life as long as we're alive. And I had a lot of challenges in the past, and I'm still experiencing also new ones. And my point here, it's not about challenges, the challenges themselves. It's about creating, building the skills of resilience and the mindset to keep going
Mm-hmm.
despite these challenges. So I know that for some people it's very difficult when they are really, when everything is negative around them, to keep going. So what advice would you give to these people? Like when
Mm-hmm.
the challenges are over, because you experienced that it was overwhelming. It was the professionals, it was the health, the health challenges, the pandemic, your responsibilities as a mother, and how you can still keep going and find joy in what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm. More lessons from birth. You first, you always have your breath. You always have your breath. You can you can take a breath. Like that's the first thing. And taking a breath for me then allows me to tune in. Um, as labor progresses, as the waves of life are hitting you, you have to tune in moment by moment because what works right now is not going to work a half hour from now. Like what works today is not going to work next month, or it might not. Maybe I learned something and I always come back to that, but there is an ability to stay tuned in to what do I need, what do I want, what do I prefer. Like in a crisis, preference goes out the window sometimes.
Yeah.
Then I think, oh, what would I prefer to do? I would prefer to take a hot bath. That's the most nourishing thing I could think of right now. So do that. Anything that nourishes you. Often we talk about self care and it's on the relaxing side. Get a massage, take a nap, and those are good. And when I was burned out, I needed to do that. I needed to nourish and refill my cup with rest and recuperation. But when I was coming through that layoff pandemic, fearful business building, do you know what I needed more of? I needed invigoration. I needed inspiration. I needed to get out by the ocean and feel the wind in my hair. I needed to be expanded rather than resting because I felt like the resting, if I continued to do that, I would have, perhaps slipped into more of a depressive state. I was a low energy state. And so I rested and then I would stretch and then I would rest and I would stretch, just like a contraction, right? You're stretching and then you get to relax and then you're stretching and you get to relax. So that being tuned in moment by moment to just in this second, what would love feel like? In this second, what do I need to feel loved? What do I need to feel whole? Having a cup of coffee, sip your coffee, take your tea, whatever micro way that you show you love yourself, and then evaluate, do I need to rest or do I need to go for a walk? Do I need to recuperate for myself or do I need to be invigorated? Is there something that I need to do to get moving? Those felt like the daily steps that I took in those moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you for
Thank
sharing
you.
that.
Yeah, and it's so. I think like the word would be for me refreshing to hear that, you know, it's okay to have different approaches for yourself at different times. That just as you
Mm-hmm.
said, whatever has worked for you in the morning might not work for you in the afternoon or in the evening, right? And to be able to really listen to your own needs, because I think we've touched upon this topic in previous episodes. We're so used, especially as women, to be tuned into other people's needs and to
Mm-hmm.
put other people's needs first, that many of us, especially because of the traumatic experiences, we are so disembodied, so disconnected from our bodies that we don't even know how to tune in and to listen to what we really need for our
Mm-hmm.
own wellness, health and wellness, to be able to be moving on and provide to for the family and for our friends and for our businesses whatever energy or input it's required from us. So thank you for sharing that. It's really invigorating to know that, there are various ways to for one's person, for oneself, to feel better, to get to feel better, and to feel grounded, and to retune in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Well, I have always this kind of question to the people who that I talk to. Do you still find joy? Like, can we still be happy even with like such long journey of repeated pain and hurdles and challenges? Can we still
Mhm.
feel happy?
Yes. And I think just like when I would give advice to my younger self, like, oh, consider like not just planning for the worst scenario. Imagine the greatest joy, like the the deepening that occurs because of the challenges. You've just built more space for happiness.
Yeah,
You have opened up. Your heart is more expanded than it was. Becoming a
absolutely.
parent, I always think parents returning to work, you are more than you were before.
Yeah.
That's You have deepened, you have expanded, and so grief and loss and challenge does that for us so that there is more room for joy. I
Mhm.
am happy. I am thrilled that I can set goals and achieve them, and um, I love that. I love metrics. I'm an OKR coach. I love to make plans and goals and stretch. It feels so satisfying to me. And to do that in spite of the challenges, it's like, oh, the challenge just come along with me on the ride to joy.
Beautiful.
And grief and loss is not the only way. So my son is leaving for college. That's a huge momentous moment that's happy. And I have to draw on every ounce of my own resilience to let that happen.
Yeah.
So resilience is not only called for in times of great sorrow, but
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
just big life moments.
Well,
Exactly.
this
Transitions
is
like that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
this is exactly what I learned. I spent many years and months and with handling the pain and the headaches and migraines and so on. And the moment everything when this went, I mean when I managed to feel better, I started to value every single thing in my life, the simplest things in my life. Sometimes I can be home without TV, without anything, just being healthy, just not having headaches anymore.
Hmm.
I feel happy because I know about the value of health. I know how being unhealthy makes you feel miserable sometimes. But today I managed to value every single thing in my life, including my kids, my health. However it is, I am happy about it. That's why
Hmm.
sometimes it's true. I mean, we don't see the value behind our challenges until it's over. Anyway, I'm just wishing for our audience that if they are going through any kind of challenges, that to be just patient because sometimes those challenges can turn into blessings in our lives. I just want to thank Princess Adiola for joining us today. I would like also to thank Tembisil. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. I thank also Mohammed Yassin. I may not go through Shadad Abdurraouf. Thank you all for joining us. Uh, Hi Hanan and all promising topic learning how to build resilience, bouncing back when turning trauma into greatness. Yeah, I mean every day. I mean we don't need to experience big trauma to turn them into opportunities. It can be daily challenges. It can be just our own our own thoughts sometimes can be challenges. Can our mind can be our enemy, and we can always turn them into into growth and so on.
That's so true. Thank you so much for joining us, Barbara, and for sharing your
Hmm.
story with us and for being, such a source of inspiration to all of us with everything you shared. Before we leave our live, can you please share with our audience where they can find you, where they can connect with you?
Hmm. I am on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to connect with anyone. I think that account is linked here, Barbara Acevedo Visser. Also, I have my website. I don't know how to put it into chat, but I can do that on LinkedIn. My business name is Expanded Focus, so the website is expanded-focus.com. And I'm also on Instagram under Barb Visser.
Yeah. Well, Barbara, I have something for you here.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And you see, sometimes you can inspire people by your compassion, by sometimes being joyful also can be inspiring, especially when people they know about your story and how you still keep going and being positive. You can inspire people also. So keep being positive, keep being inspiring, and thank you for being with us, for being real and talking from the heart. I really appreciate you today. And
Thank you. Thank
We
you for
appreciate
bringing us back again and again, week after week, to resilience.
yeah, well, thank you. Thank you
Thank
to
you,
our
Barbara.
audience also.
Thank you, everyone, for watching us. Until next Tuesday, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Stay safe, stay well, stay joyful and resilient. See you next week. Bye, everyone.